dollar. Met some girls from Guatemala, now they trying to holler.
Now before they wouldn't bother, now I'm trying to be a scholar, cause she giving all the knowledge to me.
Knowledge to me.
Doing her work every night of the week.
Night of the week.
Like she chilling up at college with me.
College with me, but we cruising, man. Rolling up at 430. Kush same color as a Kobe Road jersey. Or a throwback worthy. Giraffe ass high. Fresh breeze just passing us by. Cause I'm cruising on a Sunday afternoon. I got my good shoes on. Ain't got no bad news. Here's what you say to the lady. Let me squeeze you. Let me hold you. Let me squeeze you. Let me hold you. Why? Cause I don't wanna leave this party, baby, without you. What you waiting for? Hop in the ride.
Okay.
What you waiting for? Hop in the ride. So I arrive at a party at 9. I reside beside Sim. Think on the fly. Time's on my side. But look again, then it's 11 p.m. Chalk it on the board. Time to sin. Let's begin. Hey, you're kinda cute, and I got the loot to befriend both you and your girlfriend too.
You single Tim Jones?
Well, that depends. Just then she turned to a friend and she said,
I really like him.
Say word.
I really like him.
Oh yeah.
I really, 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 really like.
Okay, here we are again, folks. Welcome to another episode of The Few, the cast of The Few here on JCT TV. To my left, I've got none other than Danny, also known as JDX. To my right, I've got Henson Rosemond, and we are going to be talking about something kind of interesting. 2 words. One is dilapidation, hyphen dilapidation. Another one is attitude. And we're going to try to see where this takes us today. So anybody want to start?
Dilapidation is a state. It could be a spiritual state. It could be a physical state. It's a state of degradation. And attitude can be a positive aspect or a negative aspect. So if you're falling apart and you can't realize why you're falling apart, or you can't find a way about it, but you have a negative attitude, help is very difficult. But if you have a positive attitude, you are very humble towards your state, whether you're falling apart or growing, there is help and you can take in help.
Wow, nice way of looking at it. I hadn't thought of that way of looking at it before. Danny, you have anything on that?
While I was driving, coming to the studio this afternoon, I was driving in the community and I realized that I saw a lot of old buildings.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it brought back to my attention the word dilapidation, because when you look at the community, I was driving in the community and I see the condition of the community, I realized that the community is falling apart. Mm-hmm. And to restore that community back, we need to come to the acknowledgement of the attitude of the things that has caused it to reach in that position, so that the community can look so poorly, because it's a state of showing me that there is decay in the places where you see all those dilapidation. Yeah. And the attitude of the people that is living in the community of that decay reflects on the dilapidation that I was looking in the buildings that was looking just like the people that. So in a way, I will say, who is in charge of the community? You follow? Mm-hmm. And I realized it was not the people that is living in the community's problem. That's the problem, but it is the leaders or the owners of the places that have let it fall apart so much.
Because they set the
that
tone,
they
saying,
set
right?
it so that so I'm more looking at the heads, at the destroyers, than the people, because they are only dwindling down to the reflection of the people that is staying in the community. Right. So I will say that the head of that of the properties are the problem, but it reflects on the people that is staying in the buildings that are dilapidated. So I will say in a way that it's a very spiritual and physical, because it reflects to me the spiritual understanding of the person that is up there. And because of the way of their thinking, it is so destructive that they let it reflect in the thing that they were supposed to manage, to keep it in a state of health and balance, and reflect the glory of what it was once when it first built.
Yeah. So you're saying that the community reflects the attitude of the leadership. And Henson brought up the great point about positive versus negative attitude, right? Which you would, if you took what you say and you apply it to a community, you'd say, gee whiz, the leadership doesn't have a very positive attitude overall. Now, what I'm thinking is that, yes, the leadership, it's their attitude that determines the attitude of those under them, the community, the people. Also, what determines the attitude of the leadership? And to me, I think we were talking about this before. If we do not believe in God or a creator or something bigger than ourselves, we become the biggest thing, and our attitude becomes the most important thing. And our attitude, you know, it's really, you know, if we're in a leadership position, being a leader is very difficult because it gives you power, and power can corrupt very easily. So without the attitude of God within us, we are going to have a problem with our attitude towards people below us. So what is God's attitude towards us? Well,
We were all, I look at the earth as God put us on earth to be stewards of the whole universe.
right.
Now, to be a good steward, what are the principles of being a good steward? It is to manage to take care of name things, and because the first commandment that was given to man was to have dominion over the face of the earth. And what caused the destruction of man falling so low? It's because man disobeyed. But in all life, there is a principle to follow, and the principle of success is as reflecting on your life, just as the principle of failure. And so when I look at the principle of success, it says to follow that law in that manner. You know, you plant a seed, you water it. You play with it until, you know, it develops and becomes a tree, and then you eat the apple from the tree, or you eat the grapes or the cherry or whatever you plant. But if you just plant the seed and you leave it there and you just let it waste, grass and bush will come and take it over.
Sure.
So I truly believe the characteristics of the reflection of what I saw today is not reflecting on the people that stayed in the community. It reflects on, so the standard of us living in the world today, let's look at our world today, the condition of the world. Listen to the leaders all over the world on the television. They have no vision. They're lost. They are completely doomed. And now it reflects on the people, because everybody under is just only taking. But what is it that the leaders are doing to make it better so that the people they don't even listen to their conversation? There is no God in their life. There is no power of saying, I have a vision to bring you back up. So who's going to fix it? It is always going to be dilapidated. And it's continuing going down, and it is going to be going down until it reaches to the end.
Well, that's why the Messiah needed to be sent, in my opinion, because we lack the standard that we were meant to have from the very beginning. Before the fall of man, there was no what we call sin, right? So if the first two humans had not sinned, a world would have been created without sin. And I wish people would think about that, because I don't think anybody does. Everyone thinks that this is inevitable, or this situation that we're in was meant to be. And I don't see how a loving God could set up a system where people are suffering, where God himself suffers because we're suffering, if we're his children, and where there's just misery everywhere.
Yeah, but that's where we need to come to the true knowledge. If God should come today, right, as you said, the Messiah, since if Messiah should come today, the last time he came, they put nails. This time they'll use guns. Yeah. And I'm telling you the honest truth, because at the end of the day, because if we're looking for a Messiah to come, is he going to be a human being, or is he going to be somebody else? What is he going to be like?
Human.
He's going to be a human.
There is a problem right there. God gave man the power of choice. And man have chosen to use, especially our leaders, they have chosen to use the choice in a negative way. And they allow greed to come in. And because of greed, we going through a process what we call dilapidation. The problem with our people reacting to it negatively is because lack of knowledge, our people shall perish. our people think they know better. For instance, you have people living in apartments loaded with roaches. And to them, it's okay in that environment, but it's not okay. You know, it's like telling somebody, hey, you know, there's another world right above this roof there. You never, you know, man, you're talking nonsense because there's nothing up there. But you've been there and you know better. So when you're walking in certain places and you see how people live, you say, oh my God.
But isn't it your job to uplift them if they are in that condition?
The question is, even Jesus himself, when he had all these people come to him and he was preaching to them, he realized they only came for food and they were sleeping spiritually. You know what he did? He started speaking in parable.
Mm-hmm.
To those that understand, it's not parable.
Right.
But to those that are sleeping spiritually, it is a parable.
Yeah. Yeah, good point. Also, I think that many of them came just for the healing, the miracles. You know, they viewed Jesus externally, and they saw him only through their external eyes, their human eyes, and therefore they wanted something that would help them externally. And a lot of people were also thinking of the Savior coming as a king in the physical form world, not in the spiritual realm. So he had to change our entire attitude towards life itself. He had to change our attitude towards each other, you know, when he talked about forgiving, okay? And I think that as far as us at this time with the world situation the way it is, we have to somehow connect with an original attitude, the original attitude before we ended up in this fallen situation, okay? So
what would you what would you say about the condition of the attitude of the people of the world today?
let's take that up in the next segment, okay? All right, we've got to take a break.